What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Lights, Camera, Sunglasses podcast. Lights, Camera, Sunglasses podcast. It's just going to be the name for this week. I'm going to change it every week, possibly. Did I actually forget my sunglasses at the beginning? Was that an included outtake, as we do in the modern world, or was that part of the act? You're wondering. You don't know. And now I got you hooked. And see, that is how you get 100 subscribers right there. 973. Look at that jump. That's how you do it. You hook people in. I started this because I wanted to talk about why society can't be the society that people want. And Yuval Harari gave a great TED talk about how humans are the only species that can collectively imagine bullshit. So we can take, something that deep down inside we know is not actually true, and we can all just collectively agree that it is true. There are many things in that list. The one I want to talk about today is that we give a crap about society. We don't. The only reason human beings agree to want to be in a society or civilization is because we tried the alternative. And so it is better for us personally to be part of society. But the truth is, most of us just live life and we don't care about what's happening to, other people and the suffering of other people, or we care enough to say something but put a little effort. And so, that's why until we can face that truth, then there's no way we can move forward. So the truth, for example, is that, at the individual level, everybody just wants to take care of themselves and their family. We join a tribe, whether it's a country and it's a tribe of millions of people, or whether it's just our tribe, our family, the few families that we're friends with, and we got that tribe, that clan. We are loyal to any clan until it goes against our selfish needs. We are literally the most useless, selfish, hypocritical, full of shit species that has ever probably existed on the planet, and we are so full of crap and we are so hypocritical, we can pretend that we're not. So, we lie to ourselves. I've been accused 1,000 times in my life, and I have committed the act of lying to myself. I've done that. We all do it. And so that's the big thing that we need to get real about as a species, is that we only really care about our selfish interests. And in order to feed our selfish interests, we have to make sure that our communities around us are doing well. But there's only a real small handful of people that most of us really care about when push comes to shove. And so let's give a good example of this. The Shabano case in India. It's been a real privilege of mine that in the last 5 years I've been a tour guide as a seasonal job, and I used to barely know anything about history or global politics or anything. And at the tender age of 40, I discovered books. I'm 43. And so, for the last 3 years, I've been painstakingly reading stuff. And so from my mother's country, and my father's country, India, it's been kind of a privilege starting off as a tour guide just where I live, learning about that, and then in concentric circles getting more and more curious and seeing how everything connects in the world. So I want to talk about the Shabano case in India from 1986, I believe. And you can look this up. I hate on podcasts when people say things like, yo, look it up. Where, asshole? Because it immediately just sounds like, oh, yeah, just something you Google searched and you click the first link that agreed with what you were saying. Bill Burr had a joke about that years ago. No. So where to look it up? What I'm about to tell you about the Shabano case in India, in Madhya Pradesh, comes from this book by Andy Marino about Prime Minister Narendra Modi and, his a short biography of his life and politics. Shah Bano was a lady who was divorced from her lawyer husband. She wanted to get extra alimony out of him. She was a Muslim woman. Now, this resulted in the Muslim Female Act of 1986, which basically said that the extra alimony amount that ex-wife can get from her husband, that's not going to apply to the Muslim community. It was the first time that Muslims lived under a new law different than Hindus. Now, a lot of times what that means is, and this is an example of how people are tribal until it all of a sudden goes against their own selfish interests. You would think that either the Hindus are happy about the fact that there's a different law now, as of 1986, separating Hindus and Muslims when it comes to divorce and alimony, or the Muslims are happy about it, or vice versa, right? No. The ex-wife, of course, now that she can't get the alimony that she's requesting, the extra alimony that her lawyer husband can afford, now all of a sudden, because she's Muslim, this law prevents her from getting that money. So she's pissed off that, if I was a Hindu woman, I'd be able to get that alimony. I'd be able to get that out of him. Her husband, was he sad that Muslims are being treated differently? No, because it saves him money. So in that regard, the Hindu men were upset that, oh my God, so, because I'm a Hindu guy, my wife can suck more money out of me after the divorce if she wants to, and I'm not going to act like I know the specifics of how the divorce laws in India work. But there you have an example where so much of what I've learned with the Hindu-Muslim fighting in India, and I'm just using India right now as an example. There's plenty of examples, whether you want to talk about, various civil wars that are still occurring everywhere, the hatred. There's plenty to put on that list. So, but here's a clear-cut example that, well, no. If you're Muslim, you're happy that you're getting discriminated against. If it's in your favor when it comes to this. One personal experience I've had is that, an old girlfriend, she would, she said she was Christian, but, she had, it was my girlfriend in college, and, it was kind of always puzzling to me how, like, people say, oh, yeah, I'm this religion, but I pick and choose what it is I want to follow. And I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, it doesn't make a difference to me if you want to live that way, but it's interesting to me how the religion itself says you're not allowed to just cherry pick. If you do this, it's a sin. But you can just decide, like, well, no, I'm going to label myself as that religion. And even though the religion itself strictly says that I can't do certain things, I'm going to do them anyway if they're convenient to me. So, I heard a religious PhD expert say that on Bill Maher's show one time, that like even the most literalist of literalists are not literal. And then when you point out that, wait, actually you're choosing to cherry pick and do this, and it specifically says chapter and verse that you're not allowed to do that. Oh, well, all of a sudden that's a metaphor. It's like, well, yeah, isn't that convenient? And so human beings, we are, until we accept the fact that we are hypocritical and full of crap and only care about society so much, and that's of course excluding all the people that risk their lives in the armed forces, and people going overseas when they don't have to and putting themselves in danger. Yes, with exception, most people say that they care with their words and then do something different with their actions, and and then all of a sudden give up their values. You believe in your values until they no longer fit into your selfish interests. And yeah, that's something that we have to accept. I believe that there whether there's an ultimate morality, I don't know, but there are certain things that make you go, ugh, and they're just wrong. They just feel wrong, and you're just like, hurting a child. You're like, you do that, I want to kill you. I want to rip your face off. If you, you just want to fantasize about like breaking the trachea one by one of every pedophile. Right there, just bashing their brains in with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, Negan style. It's like there's that level of wrong, but we live also in a society where there's people that can do all sorts of wrong, and because of their position of power, they never will face accountability, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it, and that's always been going on throughout human history. So when I recently saw the movie The Apprentice, and it's interesting, a character like Roy Cohn, who says there is no morality. I used to look at guys like that and just have animosity, like, oh, what a sleazeball scumbag, these cutthroat, millionaire, billionaire pricks, they'll sell their own mothers, whatever, as the saying goes. But then again, I also understand, having lived a couple more decades since, having a couple decades of adult life under my belt, I understand now, being a man in his 40s, like what turns a guy into that. If you see everywhere around you that, okay, yeah, clearly nice people finish last and, doing the right thing all the time, what does that get me? It doesn't get me what I want. And if that's something, if winning or whatever, it's not justified behavior, but I understand where it comes from, So, that's my big point on Lights, Camera, Sunglasses today is we need to get honest about what we really are as a species, and start making like how we see ourselves actually match our behavior, not the other way around. Don't change your behavior. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing exactly what you're doing in life. If you're living a selfish life where you're just, whatever, just the extreme level of selfishness, or, very philanthropical. Is that a word? I don't know. Does he not know the word? Or is that part of the act? I don't know. And there we go. Another 582 subscribers. It wasn't a flat decimal number. It wasn't a flat, like, base, multiple of 10. So that way it's got to be true. But, yeah, I think we need, as a human culture, to not change our behavior first, but first acknowledge that, okay, what our behavior clearly shows is that we don't give a about each other. Like, except for a handful of people. Save for a handful of people. Sounds better if you say it that way. Which, I gotta say things the fancy way, right? Because behind me I got books, and they're laid in like an active fashion. So when you see the books behind somebody and they're not in perfect lined up order, it subconsciously lets you know, like, oh my God, those books behind them. Looks like somebody's been moving those books. This guy reads. I do, as of 3 years ago, when I discovered these things again. Before that, I was like, for 20 years, why would you bother reading when you have YouTube? Yeah, so that's probably what I wanted to say. And also, most importantly, too, yeah, I used to laugh at performers because I got 20 years of performance experience. That's wildly unimpressive. And I used to laugh at people in interviews and be like, look at them trying to look cool with their sunglasses. And then several years ago, I had my first interview. For some reason, somebody had questions for me. And then I was like, these lights are bright. I get it now. I get it. These lights are very bright. But either way, the sunglasses, they make they make me more handsome, I think, because it makes your face more symmetrical looking. Otherwise, You have your, you're talking and you probably got crusty eyes, or you're just like, now everybody can see that my one eye is not exactly the same size as the other one, and I'm like, all right, so yeah, I think this about society and society and this, and then people are just like, I don't care about society, and I especially don't care about your asymmetrical eyeballs. I mean, get real, people. We got to get real. Yeah. And I want to say my life is great. Yeah, my life personally, everybody's got problems, but overall, like, I'm not complaining about like any sort of woe is me, I'm just saying, and I don't, I plan on not having kids and just, being dead in like whatever 20 years. Like, how many days you want to keep on waking up? But I'm not telling people, I'm not an anti-natalist, like, oh, you shouldn't have children or whatever those people believe in. But like, yeah, I don't give a crap about the future of human society. So I'm not being emotional about this. I'm just making an observation that, yeah, I mean, come on, get real. Like, people literally are just like, oh my God, yeah, that's so sad. And then, you turn around, like, all of our cobalt in our rechargeable batteries comes from slaves mining it in the Congo. A lot of these are children. But, I mean, you'll forget about that 10 minutes after I just said it. And so will I, sadly, because I'm a human being and a selfish person. Don't call yourself a piece of garbage. Why would you think that about yourself? So yeah, that's the episode, definitely, for today. I can understand why this world makes people cutthroat. Because yeah, originally a person said, yeah, I think I'll close with this. Like, this is how societies really form. Is somebody's just busy. I'm not an archaeologist, but archaeological evidence shows that somebody a long time ago was just really busy trying to just work on their survival and the survival of their children and wife, and so he could keep banging her. And that somebody came along to his fence area or his hunting ground and was like, hey, we should work together. And then that way we get a more steady supply of food, and it guarantees, and the guy was like, work together? I don't want to deal with people any more than I have to. That requires me having to get up and associate with you and talk to you. What if you guys are crazy? And then the other guy was like, I know. I don't want to deal with you either. Like, your family could starve to death. Like, I could not give a shit. But what we'll do is, work together so that, don't you care of all of our survival collectively? And then he probably looked back at him and said, no, I don't, but you make a good point. So if it's okay with you, I'll pretend to care about all of your survivals. And then that's how society started. I'm paraphrasing.